We always have a blast chatting with our guests about all sorts of different topics, but sometimes we go off the rails and dig deeper into their automotive and motorsports pasts. As a bonus, let's go behind the scenes with this pit stop minisode for some extra content that didn't quite fit in the main episode. Sit back, enjoy, and remember to like, subscribe, and support Break Fix on Patreon.
Add a pregnant pause.
How did I get pregnant?
So what was your question, Izzy? What do you like to know?
So I have no idea if you guys have any experience with this, but I need to sell a pre-World War II car.
Oh.
And some extra parts that go with it. All of it and all its parts and some spare parts. And I want to try and not get ripped off.
Daniel's interested.
Oh, well, I have an answer. Dan is always interested in anything that's for sale. He'll start with $50. Just letting you know.
Yeah,
there.
I know it's not worth $50.
So, as a matter of
fact, it's worth more than $50.
As a matter of fact, if you jump over to our server and you check out our podcast episodes, I just got together with Chris Bright from Collector Part Exchange. They specialize in collector vehicles. It's an online marketplace specifically for that kind of stuff. Obviously, we can help you out. You can set up your own store on there for free and then list the car, list the parts. I mean, all that pre-war stuff, it will disappear. And that has a super large, let's call it global presence. There's people from all over the world that are on there. We have a small store on there as well because we're working with Chris on some other projects and whatnot, but that's specifically designed for those older collector, especially pre-war cars. And that's a great place to go list it.
Being pre-war, it'll definitely catch a lot of attention.
Yeah. Especially on a place like that. And if I send a note to Chris and let me know that you're doing it, I'll say, hey, Chris, and he can escalate it, put it in the newsletter. He can put it as a showcased vehicle, like all that kind of stuff. And again, it's a free service that he provides. And if you go and listen to the episode, he explains like how it works and all that kind of stuff. So
which one's the name of the episode? Is it
was CPX. It was the January
Park Exchange.
Yeah, the January 4th episode, correct.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
What is said vehicle out of curiosity?
It's a 1936 Ford Cabriolet.
You lost him at Ford.
Well, no, because the 30s model Fords, I didn't mind. They have beautiful bodies too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and it's got a 41 Mercury engine in it.
Is it a Ford? Is it a Ford, or is it like a Zephyr Ford, or is it like a rebodied, like made by?
No. It's a stock original American Ford.
Okay. Because sometimes back then they had like coach builders come in and do like special bodies.
Yeah. This one. So my great grandfather and my grandfather were Ford guys.
Nice.
Die-hard Ford guys, had the Ranchero and everything until the day he died. And this was my great grandfather's car. And then it was my grandfather's car. And then, he died in 2003. So it's been sitting in a garage, but it's a convertible and it's got the rumble seat.
Nice.
And it's completely like unmodified. He kept it stock. He got extra parts for it. There's a few extra fenders, some chrome bumpers, and other things.
Yeah, I would list all that separately. The other thing I would tell you is if you don't have good luck on CPX, which I'm sure you will, because that audience is going to be different than the place I'm about to suggest, but I would say your other option is bring a trailer. So bring a trailer, you're going to pull that thing out. You got to wash it, get it all cleaned up. You're going to have to take a million pictures, but bring a trailer is like the hot place right now. The numbers are astronomical on a lot of cars. We just look at it as organized chaos. They're selling Geo Metros on there for like 10 grand. You're like, what? This is impossible.
I've heard the car market's super hot right now. Like
it is, but for something
it's worth like $7 grand.
But for something like this, I would tell you to start with Chris over at CPX. And if you don't sell it right away and don't get nibbles, then double list it over on like Bring a Trailer. But Bring a Trailer is going to be more complicated in terms of like getting everything together. They have a lot of rules on what they want, what they expect. But I'd say that's a close second place in terms of where you want to put that car to list it. Don't worry about like cars.com and Auto Trader. You don't want to list it in those types of places. Those are commodity places.
That's why I figured I could ask you guys, because like I looked it up. It's actually 2 states away right now, and so I have to ask an elderly relative to take pictures. But it's still in my grandpa's garage. It hasn't been moved in 30 years, but they want to sell the house. So
I
would assume that it's probably still in fairly original condition.
Yeah, it's in pretty much totally original condition.
And that being said, without even seeing pictures or knowing if it runs or anything, I would not be surprised if you could easily start on the low end, probably 20,000, 30,000 range for something, especially right now in the market. And you could probably possibly come close to doubling that, depending on its condition and everything.
Very easily. I mean,
Yeah.
some of those Ford's a Ford, they're higher volume, but something like a Packard these days from that era, from the late 30s, you're talking 6 digits without even batting an eye, right? So stuff like that. So it all depends. Those pre-war cars are popular right now. So
yeah, like I said, it's been parked for like 30 years. The interior was all original then, and it was a daily driver for a very, very long time. So like the interior is essentially shot.
So I'm guessing it's like California, like kept out of the.
In California.
Okay,
right
so
now.
that's good. Probably no rust or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
it
no
being
rust.
a solid chassis, that's going to be a mint right there.
Yeah. Do you have anybody that you trust out there that can look at it? Do you know that can get it running or anything like that, or do you need help with that as well?
Yeah, I was gonna just try and sell it as is. I know it started, and I drove around the block in it when I was like 10. So it started in the 90s, but guarantee it's not going to start right now. But this is the problem: is my aunt's in her 70s. She's not the most together. And a bunch of guys have been like, yeah, I'll buy it from you for like $500 and just fix it up and get it running for you. And
so they can make 50 grand on it.
And
keep
so
telling her, no, don't do that. But
so honestly, I'm like, I would be happy to sell it as a project car, not running. But I know, like, I looked it up and it was like, oh man, just like this thing, like sitting in somebody's backyard gathering rust are going for 15,000-20,000. This has been in a garage its whole life.
Knowing that generation of vehicles, I would be willing to say that if you gave me a can of gas, some wires, and some sandpaper, it probably wouldn't be hard to get it running within probably a half hour, because you pour a little gas in the car, pull the cap to check the points, make sure your gap's good on your points, and make sure any wires that mice or something have possibly chewed through are in decent shape, and it would probably fire up and run. Now,
look, if one of you guys wants to fly out to California with me, I'll give you 20%.
I was just thinking about it. I was like, Dan, you want to go on a road trip?
I'm always up for road trips.
But and then like I said, like my grandpa, it was his dad's car, so he's take my mom and her sister and brother all for the family road trips and stuff in, and like we've got all the documentation. Like I think my great grandfather bought it from a guy, but it's like only had 5 owners its whole life. Like my grandpa kept such meticulous records. I can pull the book out and look at exactly how many miles it's ever had on it.
And that's actually valuable information too, to go with the car.
That increases the value of it. If you
keep that with the car.
Yes.
Okay. I actually have that with me. That was like given to me because it's like, well, this is your problem now, which is probably safer.
Yeah.
But I can get it to the car when it comes to transfer of ownership.
Yeah. It being a Southwest car, that is a huge plus for cars out there.
It's never lived in snow.
Yeah.
It's only ever been in essentially 40 to 60 degree weather in a garage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely a mint find for someone that's looking for something like that.
That's your inheritance right there, Izzy. I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's why it's like, okay, it's the best way to get all taken care of.
Like I would love to restore it. I'm not that person.
Yeah, I hear
and so I would, instead of it sitting for another 30 years in a garage rotting more, I want to get it in the hands of somebody who can do something with it.
Well, being in San Francisco, that's actually not bad because Chris is in Portland. So maybe we can all connect and work together and get something done. So like I said, let's exchange emails and get something going there. And I can shoot something over the bow and say, hey, Chris, got these friends out west. This is what they're facing with. They want to list the car on CPX, yada, yada, and then see what he thinks. And, would you be willing to help? Because he's out there versus, us all the way out here on the East Coast. So.
And like if he knows somebody who he trusts, who could be a broker or something, since I am here, it's in San Francisco, like if they come highly recommended.
And he says on the episode, I don't remember if it's in the Patreon episode or in the full episode, because he deals a lot with old Italian cars. And he's like, he mentioned a couple of times, I have guys down in the Bay Area, right, where he gets stuff from. So I'm sure he knows people. Again, that's his world, right? Is that collector car world. So
nice.
Excellent. Because I won't lie, none of my family has any money. This car is kind of the only thing to anybody's name that in the house. And they're ready to like sell the house. The car's got to be moved. It's one of those where it's like, oh yeah, no, I know a guy. And it's like, it gives somebody like a percentage or something. If I had physically had money on me, I'd pay to like get it fixed up or whatever. But it's like right now, it's like, I don't even know if I can afford to put this thing in a storage unit.
Yeah.
The worst thing about it, you said it has extra parts and everything.
Yeah.
It being there, if you don't have someone who knows what certain parts are, people look at it like, oh, that's just junk, throw it to the side, and not realize that could be of a key thing, because my grandfather used to collect various random things. And one of the things, it's called a Ford wrench. Fords actually came with a wrench from the factory that was to be able to work on it. And I have a handful of them that my grandfather collected, old wooden handle ones and stuff like that he collected over the years. And so I have those that my grandfather handed down to me. And it's even with the fact I'm into motorcycles and cars and stuff now, like I'll go to places and we'll go, a buddy of mine that's got a custom bike shop, we'll go to places to do like some picking for parts and stuff. And there's times we'll spend a day and a half digging through boxes, and we'll see little parts that other people would throw away that we realize, oh, this is, this part of the bike, so we'll toss it to the side and then throw it in a lump, like, okay, this is what we're interested in.
Sometimes something so benign as like what he's talking about, it's just a wrench, it's like a 10 millimeter, but it's from that era and it's probably worth hundreds of dollars or maybe more, especially if it's with the vehicle. You can, hey, it's complete, it's factory original, whatever. Or if there's multiples, you list it on a place like CPX and somebody goes, I want one of those for mine because I'm trying to complete the deal, or whatever. So it's worth something to somebody. And actually that's part of Chris's philosophy, is, to Dan's point, is to stop throwing boxes of parts just away and, kind of wholesale, doing these clearinghouse things. Is people list them up, somebody else is trying to do something, they need something, just do the exchange. We want to facilitate the ability to do that, right, for that older stuff. So the other thing they do, which is actually really cool, and he mentions on the episode, is because he's from the tech world, he did a lot of startups and stuff. They've designed their site in such a way that when you list it, it does something with the SEO and the search engine stuff, where they're in tune with Google and all this stuff, like more than what we can do with even our websites. And he's like, our parts come up before other people do, even on their own personal sites and stuff like that. So that moves you up the stack. If somebody's, at home going, I want to buy a 30s, Ford or whatever. So
I'll say I know all the tools went to. There was an elderly neighbor that knew my aunt and my the old neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they all grew up together. They essentially paid him. He could take any parts he wanted. If he got all the parts of the car together with the car and basically cleaned out 70 years of garbage out of the, not just garbage, but old tools, because my grandpa was also an iron worker, and then he had dementia at the end, so there's a lot of very random things. So if there were Ford wrenches and all of that, I know the neighbor got them, but I also know that he's clever and they're going to be going to good homes.
nice
Because there was some genuinely 100-year-old ironworking stuff, because the whole family was ironworkers and blacksmiths and that. And he when we went to go visit, I was checking in, he was like, oh, don't worry, baby girl, I got a guy who's buying all of this. I'm getting paid. And I'm like, all right, because you're in your 70s cleaning out a garage. That's
especially, I'm sure you said he was there. I'm sure he knew what things went with the car. And your family friend, I'm confident he wouldn't have done you wrong, most likely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he knows the whole family knows where he lives too, so it's not a particularly great neighborhood. So. But there was a 65 Ranchero. I think it was a 65 Ranchero that went to my cousin. My sister got the 33 Ford pickup. That was an old Carnation delivery truck.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so it had a bunch of Carnation paperwork that was with it and logoing stuff and that. And then, the 36 is my prize and headache. A lot of people are interested in it, but also they're not interested enough to not rip me off. So that's why I wanted to.
Yeah, no, we'll find a good home for you. Like I said, we're connected and you're coming into our realm, right? So we're well connected and we got people we can help you out. So, and anytime you have a question, even it's how, whatever Dan was talking about before, the points and all that, feel free to ask. I'm just kidding.
Just to throw this out there, I looked it up right now. There's a 1936 Ford Cabriolet that's all steel, titled, but it looks like it's just a rolling chassis that is going for 15 grand right now.
Yeah, I saw that when I was Googling it the other day, and the restored ones are 45 or something.
There's one on here that's 92.
Yeah, it goes up.
But sometimes all original garage kept is actually worth more than a fully restored because it's a numbers matching all original car. And more importantly, if it fires up and runs and moves, you're gold at that point.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the biggest issue with getting that running is going to be the points adjustment and clean fuel. Those are going to be your two biggest issues getting it to run, because those cars can sit for 100 years and still fire up.
Yeah, and like I said, I know it's got the Mercury engine in it, and my grandfather told us all many, many times he did that because it was a better engine than Ford made at the time.
Makes sense. I believe it.
It's a 41 Mercury flathead.
Oh, interesting. So it's a little hot rod. It's got an updated motor in it. That's good.
But he didn't chop it. Like that was his whole thing, is he kept it like
Updated.
looking stock. And I know a lot of those got like fully hot rodded. So
Yeah.
Like, especially like Southern California was big for that back in like the 70s and the 60s, where
Mhm.
everything got the tops chopped on them. And
Well, they all
lowered.
ended up on Grease,
Yeah.
right? With Olivia
Oh.
Newton-John and John Travolta. So
If you like what you've heard and want to learn more about GTM, be sure to check us out on www.gtmotorsports.org. You can also find us on Instagram at Grand Touring Motorsports. Also, if you want to get involved or have suggestions for future shows, you can call or text us at 202-630-1770 or send us an email at crewchief@gtmotorsports.org. We'd love to hear from you.
hey, everybody, Crew Chief Eric here. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Break Fix, and we wanted to remind you that GTM remains a no annual fees organization, and our goal is to continue to bring you quality episodes like this one at no charge. As a loyal listener, please consider subscribing to our Patreon for bonus and behind-the-scenes content, extra goodies, and GTM swag. For as little as $2.50 a month, you can keep our developers, writers, editors, casters, and other volunteers fed on their strict diet of Fig Newtons, gummy bears, and Monster. Consider signing up for Patreon today at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. And remember, without fans, supporters, and members like you, none of this would be possible.